Hello everyone, and welcome to the lecture on the summary of the DateTime module. In this lecture, we'll summarize what we have learned so far by looking at some examples. We have seen the various classes that we have in the DateTime module, like the DateTime class, the Date class, the Time class, and the Time Delta classes. And we use these classes to deal with dates and times. Let's start by importing the DateTime module. So let's import DateTime. And I'll also show you some methods that we haven't seen yet, but calculate the same thing that we did in the previous lectures. So I'll only be importing DateTime. I'll show you why. We won't be using the from statement. So from DateTime, import this, import that. We're not going to use that for the time being. So let's just import DateTime. And DateTime has a function known as DateTime. And this DateTime function accepts attributes like year, hour, day, month, and so on. So we'll pass those attributes. So today's, let's pass the year 2016. The month is 12. The day is 4. It's the 4th today. And the hour is 7. The time is, I believe, let's just pass 54. 7:54 a.m. And let's leave it like that. So it accepts those attributes, seconds, and milliseconds. So if we leave them empty, it will be 0, 0. Whatever we left will be 0, 0. And let's save this in a variable called, let's say, right now. So if we run this and check the type of our DateTime object right now, we see that it's a DateTime object. And if we simply print our right now DateTime object, we'll see the current date and time and so on. So today is 2016, December 4th. The time is 7:54 a.m. then 0, 0. That's because we didn't pass any seconds or milliseconds. We could also pass that. So let me copy that, paste it here, and pass some seconds, let's say 23, and for milliseconds, let's pass 245. Okay. Now if we print right now, we'll get 7:54 a.m., 23 seconds, and the milliseconds. And we have this DateTime object, and there are several methods that we can call on this DateTime object to calculate what the year is, the hour, the date, and so on. So let's do that. We can print, so from our right now object, we can print the year by calling the year attribute. So that year, and that will give us 2016. And we can print currently it is, let's say, it is right now that, so I want to say currently it's December 4th, 2016. Right now that December is the month, so we'll call the month attribute. And then currently it's December 4th. For the day, we'll call the day attribute. So this will print out December 4th. And for the year attribute, we can simply print out right now that year. Currently it's December for 2016, and the time is we can print out the time. So following the same format, we can print out for the time. It will be right now our, okay, let me first print this out and show you. So currently it's 12/4/2016, and the time is, so we can add like a dash in between, you know, the years and so on to make it nicer. Let me add a comma here, so we can add that, and then we can format it that way by using a print statement. So to print out the time, we can say right now that hour. That will print out the hour. And then to print out the minute, we call the minute attribute. So right now that minute will give us the minute, that's 54. And we can similarly call the second attribute, so that second. And then for milliseconds, we can say, I mean for microseconds, we can say that microseconds, that microsecond, and that will print out 245. If the value was empty for second and microseconds, 0 will be printed out. Okay, earlier I mentioned that we'll only be importing the DateTime module. The reason is, if we import from DateTime import DateTime, so if we did this, we are also importing this DateTime class and function within the DateTime module. So if we did that and then try to calculate the current time by using this function DateTime.DateTime, we'll be getting an error, because it will say the DateTime function doesn't have this attribute. So you'll be getting that error, since if you are importing both of them, it will be considering, you know, the lower level import, and this doesn't have the DateTime function, so that will throw out an error. That's why we are only importing the DateTime module. Okay, we can try this at the end of the lecture. If you are interested, you can try it also. So if you import both of these statements and try to calculate the current time as what is shown here, you'll get an error. Okay, that's one thing to note. And similarly, if you have only imported the DateTime module, you cannot use functions that are found in this lower class, in the DateTime class. For instance, one such class is now, right? So if I say DateTime.now, I will get an error, right? It says module object has no attribute now, since I have only imported the DateTime module. But if I import the second DateTime, I will not get an error for the now function here. Okay, next let's see some more examples of this DateTime objects. Let's see some more functions that are found in here in DateTime.DateTime. Okay, let's say we can say, for instance, DateTime that DateTime, and it has a function called today. So let's run it. So DateTime that DateTime, and if we check the type of this object, we'll see that it's a DateTime object. So we can print DateTime that DateTime that today. So it's 2016 December 4th, time is 7:42 and 27 seconds, and the microseconds here. So that's one such function. There's also another function called the now function. So let's see that. DateTime that DateTime. So in this DateTime class, there is a function known as now. Let's print it. So 7:43 a.m. right? And we have looked at this formatting, right? The year, the month, date, hour, minutes, and seconds formatting. This is it's called the ISO style formatting. And we've seen that we can use the strftime function to change the format of this. For instance, let's change some of this formatting. So I'll save. So we have our right now DateTime object that we created earlier, right? So if we print right now, we have that. So we created that. We created the time as 7:54. That's why we have this. Okay, to make it ideal, let me go and change the right now to, let's say, 7:45. I'll change this to, instead of 55, let's make it 44. Okay. Now if we call right now here, it will be 7:44:00. And let's pass some seconds and milliseconds. 22, say 465. Let's print it again. So print right now. We have 7:44, and then there's a function known as the ISO format. We can call that on our right now object. Don't worry about it. I just wanted to quickly show you this method or function. So this is the ISO format representation of our DateTime object. Now let's quickly see how we can format this data in time by using the strftime method. So we'll print our right now object. So on our right now DateTime object, we'll call the strftime method and then pass the various formattings. So let's pass %y. For year, we mentioned that we can use upper or lowercase letters. If it's upper, it will print the whole year or date, whatever it is. In this case, it will print out the entire year 2016, versus if it's lower y, it will only print out 16. So let's say %y, %m, %d, and then let's add time, %h for hours, %m for minute, and then %s. Let's see what it looks like. So we have 2016. Oh, we left hour, right? Let's add %h, %y. Let me add %h. Run it. So we have 2016 7:44 for time. Okay, what we can do is add a dash in between them. So dash there, percentage m dash, and then for the hour and minute I'll add a dash here, so it looks much better, right? It's 2016. Oh, we have forgotten the day. Okay, we have, oh, let's take the hour out of here. It doesn't make sense, right? So we don't want the hour there. So we have the year, the month, the day, and then let's leave the hour here. So let's run it again. Looks much better now, right? 2016 December 4th, and time is 7:44 and then 22. And if we want, we can add some things like here. I can add after percentage y, I can say year and print it. So we have year 2016 year, or you can write it before percentage y. Okay, so year 2016. So these are some of the things that you can play around with, then add a dash there. So I'll leave that to you. These are just various kinds of formattings, but the most important thing to remember is the uppercase. If it's uppercase, it will print out the whole year in this case, for instance. If it's lowercase, it will print out the short form. And this is something additional that I added, time. You can remove that if you want also. This is just an example. Okay, so the main point is we use the srf time method or function to format date and time. Great, let's move on. And so this DateTime module also has a class, the date class, and we can use that date class to add a date. For instance, we can say 2016, today is December 4th. We can do that and then save it in a variable. Let's say today date, and then on this today date we can calculate. So it's a DateTime object, and if we print it, we just get the date, right? And from what you see here, we can call the year attribute, the month attribute, and the day attribute, since it has those three. So if I call the year, I will only get 2016. If I print out today date that day, I'll get the 4th. That's some example. And similarly, the DateTime module has the time class, so we can also print out the time section. So DateTime, that time, and let's pass. Right now it's 7. What time is it now? Maybe 7:50, 7:55, and then seconds, let's pass 24. So it's a DateTime object. Today, let's save it in a variable called today time, and again we can print out today time object, and that will print out the time section of our DateTime module, right? So initially we said DateTime, that DateTime. We called the DateTime class, and that printed out the date and time, right? That's what we have seen here. DateTime, that DateTime. We are calling the DateTime class. So it prints out both the date, right? The date here, and the time section. And now we saw the date class, which is in the DateTime module, and that prints out the date section, whereas the time class, calling the time class, will print out the time section. And from what you see here, you can call attributes like hour, minute, or second. For instance, we can print out from our DateTime object that, let's say, minute, and that will give you 50. For seconds it will be 24, and so on. Great. And finally, we looked at the time delta class, and we use this time delta class to calculate future or past dates. Okay, I just wanted to quickly show you a summary of the DateTime module in a different aspect. So we mainly used the DateTime module directly in our summary. I quickly wanted to show you that. Previously, we have seen lectures by importing the various classes directly. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, if you import the various classes by using the from statement, so from DateTime import DateTime, if you use that and then try to calculate the current time as shown in the example here, you will run into an error because it will be looking at the lower level class. So it will be considering the DateTime class instead of the import, instead of the module. Okay, so try that out for yourself. Great. So this is a general introduction to the DateTime module. Thank you everyone, and see you at the next lecture.